right, thank you, Douglas. And I just want to appreciate each and every one of you for showing up this evening. And thank you, Minister, the Honorable Pilanigi, and Secretary Kua, for getting all of us together in this auspicious occasion. All distinguished guests, all members of those who serve and work in our judiciary, the judicial arm of our country's government, I just want to acknowledge your presence, notably the presence of our Chief Magistrate, Mr. Pupaka. Let me appreciate all Ministers of State, Governor of our city, two Vice Ministers, Vice Minister in the sector, Mr. Honorable Francis Alua, and my own Vice Minister, Assistant Me, Honorable Solan Waifa. I want to appreciate our partners from Australia. Thank you for always supporting us in many of our key work. It was this partnership 50 years ago, to this day, that set the stage for our sovereignty that we enjoy today. So 50 years on, the tradition of all our friends from Australia to continue on giving support remains. So I just want to, in a special way, acknowledge our friends from Australia, all development partners who are here today, members of the diplomatic family, friends, fellow citizens, media. Sincerely appreciate all of you for showing up. I want to prefix my short statement today with a couple of storylines, if you don't mind. And firstly, let me say, Papua New Guinea is a society, it's an oral society. We've lived thousands of years in this space. In case you don't believe me, a few weeks back I was in the Australian National Museum, and I saw a granite rock-hard piece of it's called the Ambum Stone. It's called the Ambum Stone. The Australian Museum predates that to 4,500 years ago, found up there in the Ambum Valley in Anga Province. If you don't also believe me, you go to UNESCO World Heritage Site in Cook. We are only second to Mesopotamia. When much of planet Earth was still hunting and gathering, we were already in settled agriculture in Cook, Western Islands, so it shows that we were already in a settled lifestyle in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. Better still, if you don't believe me, we were already sea navigators in our country, in our part of the world, traveling on high seas to Palau, Manus, New Island, Bougainville, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Fiji, down to New Zealand, the Marape people. We have interrelations. So we are ancient people living in this part of planet Earth. We're not jolly come lately, so to speak, and we build on oral society. We talk. In case you think talk is not good, in my part of PNG, in the holy world, we say there are three clusters of people. Three clusters of people. One cluster at 8 o'clock, night like this, they're already snoring fast asleep. They like to sleep, the clusters of those who like to sleep. Another cluster of people are those who are food lovers, they like to eat. And so for those of you, because the three of us have talked long and you're hungry in the stomach, please, you possibly are identified with a cluster of people who believe in food and food as a dictator of life. But there is this third cluster of people. They like to listen to word. And back before electricity, before modern PNG as it is, in the holy world, we come from a colder society. So at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, you're already in the house, lighting fires. You stay in your own corner of the house. And so you like to listen to the story that is told by the elders and those who have seen the experience of life. And so you listen on and on and on. I just turned 54 a few days ago. My mom is a great storyteller that tells me stories late into the night. But it has it. The story, our society has it that those, you guess out of the three clusters, which one happens to be the most successful loss? I don't want to divide you into different self-opinion, but please, I respect those who like to sleep. I respect those who like to eat food, but it is really those who listen to word that comes out being the most successful in life. And so you have found your place in success in PNG. You are here today in this room by your own merits. And I just want to ask you for 10 more minutes giving time to me as I speak, if you don't mind. So listen to 10 more minutes of word. So Minister Ninigi has spoken much, and Secretary Kua, they leave little room for me. When you are placed last in the order of speaking, you try to catch up on, try to say something that is not yet spoken. Because they don't leave room for the last speaker. They take every space. And the two have covered very much, but I just hope I do a succinct summary of the conversation. We are here in a hotel that the fathers of our country dreamt of. A party that I'm privileged to lead today. And in 2019, when I resigned from the government I was part of, I deliberately picked Pangu Party as a party I would enter, hoping that in 2025 we are in office to structure our country's public policy and our country's law to take us beyond our 50th. Pangu Party was born out of the fathers of this country's paternalistic view that citizens of this country must live in full control of their own destiny. Born in 13th June 1967, patriots of this country in Sir Paul Lapun, great-grandson Sir Michael Thomas Somare, Ola Rarua from this great land in the Motu Kwetabuan land, Peter Luz, Pali Malvat, Cecil Abel, two of our country's adopted sons in Sir Barry Holloway and Tony Wouters, Sir Maro Keki. They lived in Hola. It's a house we will unveil in September 16 this year. They lived in Hola. And they saw Boroko. They saw downtown. Downtown at that time in the late 50s and 60s and early 70s was whites only. Ella Beach was no natives and no dogs. That was the context to which they not fight with guns and violence, but through reasoning, were able to galvanize the fascination of their generation to the construct of what our country is today. They lived out of Hola. Hola was a small, I see one of my friends, Kapin Kapakali, you live in Hola, you know what I'm talking about. Your house in Hola is exactly where they lived, around that block. Small, 10 by 15 size areas. And there's a Boroko, which was almost 2,000 square meters, big play yards. They were saying, how comes we are in these small tucked out areas and our compatriots were living in, at the time we were still in Australian sovereignty, in case you don't know your history. It was in 1975 that we became independent. And so they fought for independence. I am thankful that still in my lifetime, I am able to see the Hola they saw and see the Hilton in 2025. In one generation, we have moved from that mindset, that space, that inhibition to where we are today. This hotel depicts the aspiration of our country. Let no man tell you you cannot do it. But that construct of the future of this country must be done in a common rule book that is equal, friendly to all, that leaves no one behind. So it is really in the prefix that I just want to commend the work that is put. And so it is absolutely my distinct honor and privilege to stand here today to officiate at this important occasion to launch the National Law and Justice Sector Policy of our country 2025 to 2035. I want to thank all of you. This is a landmark document that will guide the future of the justice administration of Papua New Guinea, especially in the next 10 years, the next decade. And I thank every one of you, the peer team who put this together, Police Commissioner, Public Prosecutor Office, Community Development. Needless to name all of you, the list goes on. Thank you very much for your contribution. We stand at the cusp of our nation's 50th anniversary. This occasion is timely and symbolic. We must not only reflect on where we have come from, but most importantly, where we are going. The construct of our country was by fathers and mothers who envisioned a country that is a democratic state founded on the rule of law. It remains so, but it is something that we too today must anchor and also amplify, but tidy, especially on the operational laws that must take us forward without tampering the fundamental tenets of our democracy. Rule of law is the foundation upon which our democracy and our democratic state must rest. For it is the greatest equalizer. It is the greatest equalizer. The safety net that holds together as a sovereign people, regardless of where you come from, what you believe in as far as your personal beliefs are concerned, or how you have voted, or what language you speak, or your own tribal affinities. Ours is one constitution and must be one constitution always. One set of laws, one set of justice system that applies to every Papua New Guinean equally. Does not matter who you are. It is this unifying legal order that has carried us the last 50 years, despite our changes, despite our challenges, and despite our growth. This one legal system has carried us thus far. Never, never to my children who will come after me, whether you are in politics, or you are in employment, or whether you're in business, as I speak in the face of our 50th anniversary in this important occasion. Never, never, never create two rule books, and never, ever, ever tamper with the one good rule book that is the greatest equalizer of our country. Looking back, hindsight, retrospectively, I must commend the foresight of this great man whose shadows we are living under. We cannot come close to them. Said Michael, said Julius, said Teyabel, said Matepe Yui. Those that I've mentioned earlier, the list goes on. They gave us the most progressive constitution you can find in anywhere on the face of planet Earth. They gave us one of the best. They may not have been equipped with the university degree we have today, the PhDs we flounder today, that gives you the inflated mindset that you could communicate at all levels as if you're an authority. These simple fathers and mothers of our country gave us one rule book, our PNG Constitution, that embraces our cultural diversity and trains fundamental human rights and establishes the separation of powers amongst the three arms of government and empowers key constitutional offices to function on its own accord, with its own mindset, not reporting to the Prime Minister, but reporting to the people through the constitutional mandate they have. This is truly unique. A blessing that was gifted to us by our 1975 generation that must not be squandered or taken for granted by this generation or my children's generation who will come after me. If I am 54 today, I am as old, a little bit older than my country. So if the country can be seen in a human form, you see it in me. Bold, white and getting whiter, accumulating my BMI, getting out of shape and proportion today. For those who know what BMI is. But that is me, but the country must live on. We come and go, just like those great ones before us who have gone. But it is now you and me, our duty, to pass on to our children our country that has that one common rule book that preserves a key aspect of our democracy. And that is all created equal and must be given equal opportunity in our country. And so whilst our constitution is the envy of many, and for me, I subscribe, and I have in my own public life defended our constitution. There was a moment in time in 2011 when peers of my country think and thought they were higher than our constitution. They almost tore our constitution up. I played my little role in defending our constitution at that time with Grand Chief Sir Michael Thomas Sonari. And I just want to say at this time, at this juncture, as we look in the laws of our country, never migrate past the fact that the law must be a commonplace for all. That is where we all confluence into and find rest, find solitude, and find common ground that ensures everyone prospers, everyone progresses, and everyone grows. It's timely we look into this at the 50th anniversary mark of our nation. The world is changing, the modus operandi is changing. It's an ICT world these days. International borders are broken down because today the world is not sleeping, the world is full throttle, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Crime is transborder, business is transborder, commerce is transborder, education is transborder, of course, marriage too is transborder. And so the world has changed 50 years on. In fact, changing at a much faster rate. We must adapt. We must make change. But some things are timeless, especially for our country, fundamental tenet of our democracy, free market economy, freedom for all and equal opportunity for all are timeless principles. I want to commend this plan that is to be launched as I finish my speech. I want to commend those of you, especially those of you who belong to my generation, for seeing that our population has grown, the complexity of crime and litigation in our country has now grown also, the expectations of our people have risen also, the volume and magnitude of crime and scale and scope of our crime has also evolved. We must now have our systems tidied to meet these modern demands. This policy acknowledges those changes and response to them. I must give commendations. For me, it lays a critical foundation, a foundational building block as we bridge the past 50 years and bridge the next 50 years. I call this 10-year plan a fundamental building block for the next 50. By the time we stand at the podium in 2035 and look back, this plan that we're launching, Mr. Minister, must be a living organism. That is not only for those who study law at the law school at PNG, but for every one of us. We must have consumed it. It must be part of our life. We must be living it, practicing it. From the public service to the politicians, every one of us. James Marape will come and go. but where it lives on. Our children will live on. What is the country our generation is passing on to the next generation? Of course, chasing of economic ambience is something I want, but without fundamentally respect to the rule of law. And it starts not with the people, all of us in responsible offices. If you and me, not just write and speak it, but live it and practice it. The next 10 years, all I ask is all of you, the next 10 years, to live it and practice it as we push our country on towards our 70th in 2045 and towards our 100 years in 2075. This must be a consummate work of every one of us in this room. It starts with us first, then others second. You write it, believe it, live it, work on it, practice it, pass it to your children, pass it to your community, enforce it at your workplace. Build our country through the laws that we are passing today and the public policy that we promulgate. Whilst many nations around us have lived hundreds and thousands of years, I want to also encourage as I speak, it's not only a hard conversation. Be not dismayed that many who are now 1,000-year-old in as far as their sovereignty is concerned, over 100 of years, USA today, over next year they'll be celebrating their 250th year of democracy, the greatest democracy and the greatest free market economy. But today they have 120% debt to GDP. Just to give you some context. There's more murders happening in New York City today than the entire Papua New Guinea in 1 year. But that is not an excuse. Our complacency and our relaxation in the way we do business, or even an excuse that we're just 50 years old, must not hold us back. We have no time to waste. The world is running faster. We too must run faster. And to run fast, we must, in my view, the greatest work all of us must do is to anchor our country, our economy, and our work in the rule of law. Let me read word by word, verbatim, an aspect of my speech that is written here. There is no greater work in nation building than anchoring the rule of law. Our society cannot thrive without justice. And justice cannot exist without a functioning, fair, and independent legal and judicial system. I repeat, our society is no greater, there is no greater work in a nation building or in nation building than anchoring the rule of law. Our society or a country cannot thrive without justice, and a justice system cannot exist, or justice cannot exist without a functioning, fair, and independent legal and judicial system. That is why my government has prioritized judicial reform and a law and justice sector strengthening focus. I must commend Minister Ninigi for your tireless work and ever reliable Secretary Dr. Eric Kua. Despite the ups and downs, you remain a consistent reference point in the work we must do. Thank you, Secretary Dr. Eric Kua. Thank you too much. Just like many good Morabians who have contributed to our country, needless to be personalized, I just want to thank you for the great leadership you've shown in the sector, and all of you who have constructed what is now the policy that we are about to launch. Sir Gib Salika and members of your bench, of course, Chief Magistrate and members of your court, and everyone else who played your part in this construct. The last 6 years since I took office, we have undertaken some monumental landmarks, needless for social media to know, needless for the experts in our society to praise me. I'm not in this job to be praised. We're here to do our job and move on in life. The last 6 years, we've tried our very best to work in this sector. We've reviewed, for instance, the judicial structure that is carrying us thus far in a litigious society in 21st century. And I want to thank the Chief Justice for working together with the executive government. We've successfully passed the constitutional amendment to have a three-tier higher court system. The appeals court to be inserted between a separated National Court and Supreme Court. Supreme Court remains a hearer of our constitutional matters, especially Section 18 and Section 19 references. And so that is, the laws have been amended. We're working to make sure the regulations come into place. We, of course, knowing very much that 80% of the workload in litigation and crime and judicial adjudication is taking place at the Ministry Services as well as the village court. For the first time now, we've given greater support in the context of what we have as a country in our budget spaces, greater support to the Ministerial Services. For the first time, we brought our village courts in line, and we're now starting to pay our village courts in regular government and putting them into regular government payroll. We're also supporting the alternate dispute resolution programs in our country, enhancing the mediation processes. We're also working to modernize arbitration. So instead of running off to Singapore for arbitration, you can have arbitration in Papua New Guinea. That is being worked upon. Expanding the retirement ages of our judges and hopefully our magistrates, so that Chief Magistrate, you don't run upstairs, but you remain static. We need good magistrates also to take the 80% of the workload, so that is AG work on this paper. But we're looking so that our judges and our magistrates are protected, including the work conditions. Don't think it's only members of parliament getting a pay rise. All constitutional office holders are getting a pay rise, including our judges. We're recruiting judges from outside of our country to assist in some of the capacity deficiencies we have within. So judges are recruited from overseas to stack up the ranks. As we're working to operationalize the Independent Commission Against Corruption, we're making sure our police force is modernized. Before we took office in 2019, there was no recruit for police in a long while. And how do you expect a very highly energized 10 million people to be policed by 4,000 policemen and women who are aging faster than you and me were producing babies? And so police is being modernized, resourced, and we're trying to resource them to a 10,000 strong police officers by 2030. And we're also working the correctional services sector so that they not only focus on containment, but they also focus on rehabilitation, especially for the young offenders, so they come out of the terms as better citizens in our country. So this is a work we're trying to do in a holistic manner, and I am absolutely encouraged to know that this policy we're launching embraces all this intention of government. But I want to say as I conclude, I speak to every citizen of our country. This policy is not just a document, as I said earlier. It calls for national excellence in terms of our work for justice, accessibility, as Minister and the Secretary already included, justice, accessibility, inclusivity, institutional strengthening, good governance, community engagements, and of course, the restorative justice element. This is a reminder to all of us that justice and justice administration, the law and justice sector is not only for those in this room. I speak to our country through the radio broadcast, and our TV broadcast, and through our medias. Responsibility of you in working for your country starts, number one, with respect of your country's law. John F. Kennedy, the 43rd President of the great United States of America, in his inauguration on January 20th, 1961, forever etched this line in the human psyche: And for it is worthwhile for every good Papua New Guinean who want to receive blessing. Remember this punchline. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you must do for your country. Today I ask you, what is it that you must do for your country? Works minister, you're doing work for your country as works minister. But first thing first, it starts respecting the rule that governs you to work as works minister. Myself likewise, all of us. First thing first, and every citizen, it's the easiest, it comes at no cost, but it is the best contribution every citizen can give to their country and pass on to our children a better PNG. If we all learn to build PNG by respecting the rules of our country. Today in 2025, as we turn 50, the best gift all of us can corral and give to our country is pledging that from the clergyman to the clerks of our public service system, all of us must render fullest commitment to our country and to everyone in our mountains and villages, islands, and coastal areas. If we can commit to respecting this one common rule book to our country, you and me are building a better country. Justice and a better justice system does not belong to a privileged few. It is a right for everyone. It is a right for all of us. And I want to ask all of us, 50 years has arrived in our doorsteps. The past is locked into the annals of history forever, never to be relived. But a future is awaiting us. Let us construct the future for our children to live in. A good parent is always creating an equal playing field for his or her children. This generation must create an equal playing field for our children who is coming after us. This policy is promulgating an equal playing field for our children who will come after us. And for those who will polish this policy, I pray God's blessing upon you. For those who will respect the justice sector and laws of our country, I pray God's blessing upon you. And for those who will live after us, may this policy be a blessing to you. And of course, you and me can come and go, but God shall forever bless Papua New Guinea. I thank you all for listening.